And thank you everyone for joining us. Sorry we had a little technical glitch there when my streaming service just decided to crash on me. So we're back up and running now. I'm really sorry about that. Thank you for joining us. So for those of you who don't know, we're playing Exalted, and I've got a little intro that I'm going to pop down into the chat window there for everybody. We are partway through a campaign that we are playing called, well, the whole campaign's called Invictwitch, but this particular story is called In the Shadow of Kings. We've had a team of Exalted, there's 6 in total, have been sent to the Kingdom of Kaldor to either restore peace and prosperity to it, or make sure that the king takes out a loan from their benefactor rather than anybody else. In this particular part of the story, we've got the characters have done their introductory session. They've met with the king. They've sort of made some interesting observations about the world around them, in that they believe that it's starting to descend into a Shadowlands, and they're looking to try and stop that as soon as possible. There is a debutante gala that's going to be held on the first evening that they've arrived, and 3 of the characters are going to attend with their diplomat guide called Righteous Lotus. Characters that we have with us today are Athrashasta, played by Culture Shock. We have Tarala Auric, a Fire Dragon-Blooded, played by Keltamer.
Hello.
And we have Amala De Novo, who is a Sohei from Lukshai and a sorcerer. Now, normally Amala De Novo is played by a player called Avis, but he's currently out of the country at the moment, so he can only contact us via text message. And so we have one of our other players, Vero, is going to sort of just step in and fill into the role with some RP guidance from Avis as well, just so that we can keep the story moving along without having too many delays. So thank you very much.
I am but a humble soul.
So thank you very much for sticking with us, and let's get this on the show on the road. So as I mentioned, the characters have been getting ready to attend a gala. They have met with King Alexander Marcus, and they have met with the Crown Prince Jonathan Marcus. They have met the Castle Keep's butler Mason, and they have arrived in this city in one of the other characters' caravan trains. Now, his name is Sagacious Hand, and he is essentially a drama and performance expert. He has this entire performance crew that follows him around. It's insulting to call it a circus, because it's so much more professional than that. It is called the Ebullient Excelsior, and it is this large and fantastic procession that he follows them around. So there's this almost another city camped outside this city. Now, oh, my children are loud. I'm really sorry about that. So on the first night after their arrival, there is to be a gala where the nobles from around Kaldor, the landowners, and the foreign dignitaries who are all coming to basically inspect the kingdom, and the king is basically begging them for money, so that he can try and put more resources back into his land and try and get it up and running and fertile again, because it used to be quite verdant, but now it's quite sort of ashen and slushy. Hence why the characters believe that it's descending into Shadowlands. So in this procession that we have, that are about to present themselves for the ball, first we have Righteous Lotus. Righteous Lotus is a dignitary from a place called Lambert Heights, which is where all of the characters are sort of home-based at the moment. They are following the plans and wisdom of a exigent of law called Thrice Posed Question. Sorry. unsure root of the thrice posed question. Jeez, I have to get my own names right. And he's asked them to come here to make sure that the kingdom is either A, stabilized and can run by itself, or B, make sure that the kingdom doesn't become indebted to any of the other kingdoms around. Because unfortunately, as far as Unsure Root is concerned, Kaldor is the cornerstone of the Hundred Kingdoms' defense against the rising threat of Vanaha. And if Sword Prince Kintsugi is going to make a strike, it's going to be here first. And if it's not up to scratch when he does, then the Hundred Kingdoms will fall with very little resistance, or a much harder battle to fight. And that brings us to tonight. Arthashasta is a tall man of 6 to 7 feet, I think.
Like 6'2".
6'2". He is from Volavat. He's one of the Yenin. He has long hair that is like purple and blue and stuff, from mimicking the ocean of his home, and he is a natural beauty. He has a standing appearance score of about 6. Tarala or Auroch is actually going under the pseudonym Jade Phoenix Soul because she's on the run from her kingdom and doesn't want to be found out. She's disguised as an entertainer in the Ebullient Excelsior and is currently dolled up to the nines in a fabulous dress that I'll let them describe later. De Novo is... Did De Novo get dressed up? If you just quickly remind me. Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
De Novo has a... I'm waiting for him to send any more information over what he's wearing, but at the moment I know for certain that he has a lavender... what's the word? The bouquet pinned to his lapel that is matching the lavender that is braided through Arthashasta's hair. So there is at least some sort of symmetry and link between them that Sagacious Hand has purposefully put in there. As for what he's wearing, from memory, I'm just waiting for any message from Avis regarding that. But Avis, De Novo has his robes.
Yeah,
so he's just wearing the same Sohai robes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that would be what we would sort of understand as sort of like a monk attire almost. He also has sort of very short cropped hair, about a ½ inch, I think. And he has a beard as well, which is about 1 inch long. Now, Righteous Lotus is actually in the keep already. She has actually taken residence in the keep as offered by King Marcus and his son and the serving staff. So she would be up there waiting for you. Is there, on your way into the keep, is there anything you want to do in the town? Or are you just going to go straight to the keep and present yourselves?
Avis has sent me a message saying that he would like to wander off right away and drag Arthashasta along. So I just need to confirm whether or not he means right now, or if he's going to the ball first to speak to the diplomat and then wander off. But, which he is typing now.
Okay, cool.
Again, apologies for this back and forth.
Another piece of important information is that Arthashasta has a pet, or what we would know as a familiar, which is a large dog, about Rottweiler sized, I think it was, and they have this large sort of orangey mane. Their fur is almost fiery in appearance, and that is named Johan, and that is his familiar. Would Johan be leashed at the moment or unleashed?
Oh, absolutely leashed.
Okay.
We're entering polite society. Can't just have dogs wandering around.
Especially fire dogs.
I don't need to know about that.
Just checking, was anyone specific? I'm going to voice it. De novo, was there anything you wanted to do in town before heading up to the castle? Yes, there is something that de novo would like to do.
Okay, what is it?
Okay, he sent me these instructions. One moment. These are very long. Okay. De novo is going to peel off. He is going to tie. One sec. He's going to tell Tarala to tell Righteous. To tell Righteous Lotus that he is going to be following the eccentric exigent, and he will attend later. De novo has a canister on his back with 12 swords. He's going to tie a ribbon inscribed with something around Tarala's sword. I'm assuming the hilt of said sword. And then he's going to try and have Alfrashusta, to take Alfrashusta with.
As long as it won't take too long. I mean, just got dressed up and my hair done. As long as we aren't too late to the ball.
It's fashionable to be late. Don't worry about it.
I believe De Novo is doing some setup for a later stunt.
Yes.
He's going to instruct Tarala. One moment. Here we are. Jade Phoenix. Wave the sword if something angers you, even slightly. After something.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? It came out a little quiet on my end.
Wave this sword when something angers you, even slightly, after sunset. And there's a little ribbon tied to the end of your sword.
Okay. Now, out of character, that I'm assuming when you say angers her, is that to the spirit or to me? Because you've already established there's a spirit.
He replies, no, your sword.
If something angers you, Tarala, wave your sword.
Okay, that's what I was trying to make sure.
Oh, sorry. Just for those at home, when the players are going to say something out of character, they'll generally give us a moose hand just to say that it's an out of character thing rather than sort of an in character talk. So generally speaking, after the first little bit, put the hand down. Otherwise, that they are assumed to be speaking in character.
She nods.
Okay, so for the sake of expediency, Alfrashusta, I believe the reason why De Novo needs to go is because of Johann's specific traits and abilities.
Yes, I believe he needs help finding ley lines throughout the city.
Okay, so for the sake of expediency, what I'll say is that De Novo's able to explain to you what it is that he needs. Whoopsie, sorry. He's able to explain to you what he needs, and you're able to get Johann to basically follow through with directions and without actually having to follow him around for however long it's going to take to get this done.
At each point, as when they're moving, De Novo moves with the strength, speed, and agility of a man slowly dying from old age, or at least attempts to do so. We all know that he is pretty damn ripped underneath those robes, and so De Novo is going to be doing the hunch. If anyone is walking by, good evening. That he's but a simple man escorting the exigent away from pleasant company. To one would assume, whether depending on who's coming by, whether it's to the bathrooms, because heaven forfend an exigent be anywhere near the nobles for something such as that, and just various ridiculous excuses as we make our way through. And at each point, when Johann starts to make a riff of finding something, De Novo is going to drive a sword into the ground. He has a canister upon his back of, I believe, at least 12 swords. So he's going to take one and with his strength drive them into the ground and pray to each of the 5 points with a prayer to each of the dragons.
Okay. Normally the trip from the front gates to the keep can take upward of about half an hour, just sort of strolling on up through the promenades. But with this additional stuff taking place, it could take an hour instead. So you would be a little bit late for the gala, but not like hugely late. Would Tarala go ahead, or would Tarala stick with them?
Again, Tarala did make the point that being a little bit late is considered somewhat fashionable. In fact, I'm going to do a lore check, or to introduce a fact that it's actually almost unheard of for a ball for anybody to show up actually on time. She's used to this. This is something from her background and everything.
Okay. I'll give that a lore difficulty 1 because it sounds like something that's relatively realistic.
All right. I have lore 3, and intelligence 2. I am going to spend 2 motes to basically make sure that that's a success, but we will roll anyway because I have the first lore. Well, sorry, that's 2nd edition terminology. Let me get my 3rd edition terminology right here, because of course Dragonbloods have to have bizarre names for their excellencies. Careful insight gathering study. 2 motes per success. If I were to buy 2 successes with this, I'd get double 9s on the roll. But since it's such a low roll, I'm not going to worry about that.
Okay. So you're just going to buy your success?
Yeah, just buy one, and I'm just going to roll anyway, just so that we have how many she met it by.
I don't think that really matters, but okay.
I also enjoy rolling. And there, that would have been 3 successes. Yay!
Okay. So in Exalted you can...
Peripheral, by the way.
Sorry?
That was peripheral essence, by the way, since there was only 2 modes. Not going to tap into the personal read yet.
So, in Exalted, a character who has at least 3 dots in lore, and they will have their background in lore, but also if they have a specialty in lore, they can introduce facts about the world as relevant to their interests, as denoted by their background or their specialties. So what Tarala has just done is, in this scene, has established the lore fact that it would be better for them to turn up late than it would be for them to turn up early, so that they're not going to suffer any social penalties for being late. So it does take about an hour for you to do your implantations of the swords before arriving at the keep. You can see that, more you can hear, even from outside the keep, that other people have already arrived. Things have already started moving. There is basically a train of footmen at the front door, sort of just ready to help guide people in, take your coats or anything like that they need to do. And the music coming from inside is festive and plump.
As Novo moves around with Arthur Shuster, he'll be explaining in Old Realm because it is a language that they both speak fluently, and it allows him some level of privacy to say what it is he's doing, which is that, one second, find the voice, to Arthur Shuster, I'm jamming the ley lines and rerouting them towards the palace. Bam! As another sword is slammed into the ground and worked in. The prayers are making the essences flow faster, building up a charge of wood essence. As making his way towards another area, bam! Another sword into the next point. A prayer for another of the dragons. Jade Phoenix Soul's sword is the switch. If this works as intended, we'll unleash, literally, an earth-shaking flow of essence into the heart of the city to revitalize it with life and growth. Slam another sword in, and another prayer given. It's a short-term fix, but something we can accomplish.
Interesting. Is this your own theory, or is this a technique they actually teach in Lookshy? I mean, to radically so alter the dragon minds of an area that, I mean, conceivably it could be done. I've never heard of it before.
It's Lookshian doctrine. If something does not fit, we make it.
It's hard to argue with that philosophy, I guess.
This is something that we're specifically not supposed to do.
Now the design of the swords, is that important for the ritual, or is that just a personal aesthetic choice?
I suppose ever since my wife cut off my arm, it's been plaguing on my mind rather a lot.
Yes, I could see how that might impact one's design philosophy.
He laughed, the jolly old man laugh. It's like, my magic is blade-born. My wife liked to use axes. And he wanders off again.
Okay, culture, take your expression bonus.
Okay.
For the viewers, the characters have 2 opportunities each session to gain bonus experience called Solar or Dragon experience, respectively. And they get it from either an expression bonus, where if they roleplay particularly well, or we find out something new about the character. In this case, Culture Shock is playing up his character's absolute obsession with the way that everything works, essence-wise and mode-wise. Which I'm finding entertaining, so I've granted him his expression bonus. As the game goes on, that won't be enough, and he'll need to do more, but as we're in beginning sessions time, that's good. The other thing they can get is a role bonus. If they act particularly well towards their role, as denoted by their cast, as you can see the different symbols down there underneath their portraits, or if they specifically see the spotlight to make someone else look more awesome in their particular role, then they can get their role bonus as well, for a total of 4 bonus experience each session, if they can get it.
Don't you worry, Avis. I'll get you those 2 dragon experience.
No, you don't give him dragon experience, because then he can buy solar charms with it. The only thing dragon experience can't buy is dragon charms. Anyway, so this ritual having been done, and I'll get Denova to do some rolls about it later when it's revealed exactly what it is that this does. You arrive at the keep. As I mentioned, there's a big line of footmen ready to help you out, and maids sort of just scurrying about in the entranceway. Most people at the moment are sort of congregating in that entrance hall that you all know so well, where you met the great spirit Gama Kama Senin. And they're milling about. There's quite a number of people here.
Do I recognize the people that we had an altercation with in the market?
Yes. You do recognize the man without a helmet from the market, although he doesn't seem to have any of his lackeys with him. He is still wearing that gaudy armor that he was wearing earlier, again without the helmet.
I don't think I'm going to say anything at this point, but I am going to give some serious side eye.
If he does notice any of you, he's not like, as within the marketplace, he is a very proud person, but instead of he is obviously avoiding you. Anytime you would get near him, he finds some excuse to move away. But he's totally stoic, and he's not running away from anything. He's just, avoiding you because he doesn't want to have to lose more face than he already has. As far as the rest of the nobles are concerned, nothing happened. No one else knows. It was just a small altercation in the marketplace, and he walked away with his head held high, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what happened.
You would remember that Righteous Lotus told you his name was Gauron, with the moniker the Metallian Auroch. Is there anything that you're going to bequeath? If you do turn up with weapons, they are going to ask you to bequeath them.
Will people continue to buy my argument that my whip is a dog leash?
So long as it remains leashed, yes.
Perfect.
Tarala,
I'm just awaiting on word from
Tarala, you already roll a disguise to try and hide your sword inside your outfit. And so, unless you draw attention to it, for the moment, nobody notices that it's there as far as you're aware. The servants certainly don't ask you for it.
When approaching the footman, De Novo is moving forwards. I'll let Arthur Shuster go first. De Novo trailing behind, for he is but a humble, simple Sohai, and so it's more of a he watches him from behind as opposed to leading forwards, as is only right and proper. And so when it is now his turn reaching the foot, he explains that he has sworn a holy oath to never relinquish his sword, an oath on the dragons before a sacred tie. I will protect them with my life.
Okay, I'm going to get you to roll a persuade action, please. And I'll give you a 1-point stunt.
Can it be performance? Here's a question from Avis.
How is it a performance? Is this
I
pre-prepared?
believe he is acting.
So he's pre-prepared this speech for everyone?
It is a recited speech. Whenever anyone asks him about his swords or needing to relinquish them, because he happens to have, from my personal memory, a very large sword. I believe it has a name of Pelora. I don't know if it's able to be seen or not, but through years of carrying this around, he's used to having to say no as politely as possible, and he hams it up to the extraordinary of, how dare you, how could you, I have sworn a holy oath, I will not relinquish my sword, an oath before the dragons, this is a sacred tie, I have protected this all my life, and I require this as utensils for my supreme and righteous duty of guarding the exigent before you.
Okay, I'll give you 1 point stunt, and yes, it can be performance.
Avis, you are very lucky. I believe he's going to be using an excellency.
As one would expect. While that roll is happening,
And
if the
personal notes.
If the players don't mind just chatting between themselves, I have one quick little errand I need to run. Just my children are still being noisy. I just need to remind them that we're streaming. I will be right back.
And a willpower.
I'm actually gonna be right back myself, real quick.
In which case, who was leaving? Was that Kel leaving?
In that case, I will interview people by juggling, which I don't know how to do.
Hey, I'm just going to talk some off-screen stuff with Arthur Shuster, because before we entered into this scene, Sagacious Hand has spoken to him privately, well, as privately with the others, and had a good chat. Like, what's Arthur Shuster feeling about this after, just a relatively polite chat, I think, of, I like you, but I'm not telling you guys everything. And then suddenly, De Novo just word vomits a whole bunch of secrets we had no idea about. Or at least Sagacious Hand didn't.
Yeah, I'm friendly, but, I hide things. And De Novo's like, I'm emotionally flat, but here's all the cards.
Apologies, I'm back.
It was an awful lot of cards. Avis is asking, willpower is a success, right? And my response is yes, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, 2 successes.
You can see that this clearly bothers them. They are caught up between their fealty to the Concordant Rivers, and thus your assumed social superiority to them, and their direct orders from their king. Mechanically, they have reached a decision point, but because they're insignificant NPCs, they're not going to bother spending a willpower on it. But they have reached that decision point, so you can see that it's very difficult for them. And you know that going forward, you are treading on thin ice carrying this thing around. Just so you're aware. As you sort of step in, there's roughly about 17 other people milling about, all milling about in their formal type wear. Again, the main exception being Garon, who is walking around in his armor that doesn't seem to bother him. It fits him almost like a second skin. Most of the people who are here are adults or older people, but there are a few younger people as well, mostly from the same family. A couple 20-year-olds and a younger 18-year-old who has already done his coming out. The 2 girls who are meant to be being presented are not here at the moment. They would be upstairs and away somewhere, about ready to make their presentation. The footmen are moving about you with trays with things like champagne and drinks and things to offer to you. If anyone wants to eat or drink anything or strike up conversation with anybody, nobody immediately moves over to you other than Righteous Lotus.
Are Alexander or Jonathan here yet?
No, they are not here yet. Righteous Lotus makes her way over to you, as I mentioned, but for the sake of the audience. She's got those sort of thin almond-like eyes and the soft tone to her skin. Her hair is short and cropped into a little bob, and her hair is pitch black. She's wearing a very form-fitting dress with a slit down one side on the leg, and a pair of high heels as well. Mostly in sort of like a red silk almost, with the patterns of flowers and trees sort of embroidered into it. She walks up and greets you all with a the double cheek kiss. You know, greetings. So glad you guys could. Actually finally make it. You've arrived just in time. The presentations were about to begin.
As DeNovo enters the room, he taps Pelora against like the side of a table, so you hear the ching ching of the bells, whilst gesturing to the to grab one of the sweet treats and glasses of champagne that were on offer. Not necessarily to eat them, unless there are sweet things, in which his eyes are directly going towards any of those hors d'oeuvres. But the main point is to get those to tap the bells on the sword and summon Shiroi to his side. Shiroi?
No, Shiroi, yeah, that's right. DeNovo can feel the sort of just the motion around his legs as a soft wisp of smoke issues forth from one of the bells, and like the twinning streams of smoke from an incense burner, the smoke resolves out into that of a larger cat, probably Mao-sized, with twin tails. She is invisible to everyone else in the room, for she is an immaterial spirit, but she is now there with him.
Shiroi, shift to human form as he turns to Lotus and says, I am going to call a god to do the rounds.
Sorry, to do the what?
The rounds.
As Shiroi expends some of her energy to sort of stretch up into her more beautiful feminine form, still immaterial, Righteous Lotus just... She has the mask of this is a formal setting, and so I'm not going to show any immediate signs of distress, but her eyes do that slight widening of, you'll... Pardon? You're going to what?
I am going to call a god. We have put things in place to try and fix the problem this kingdom is facing.
I see. And now is the most opportune time to take advantage of that?
Well, you can introduce my guest as my apprentice. It would be rude not to let you know. He laughs that deep old man laugh. I'm not used to having to talk.
Right. Well. She sort of just looks around, takes a bit of a longer sip from her champagne than you've probably ever seen her drink the entire time you've been with her.
DeNovo is going to discreetly ask for, now that Shiro has shifted to human form, for her to materialize when no one is looking. So as she makes her way around, say around one of the pillars, or because she has already technically entered, to move past a group of people. I'm thinking Assassin's Creed, of how you move past a group of people and suddenly another person goes from within it.
Yeah, I get you.
As subtly as possible. She'll be wearing priestly robes, and she looks like a shrine maiden.
Okay.
Novo says, there she is, and gestures for Shiroi to come over and introduce her to Righteous Lotus.
Shiroi meekly steps forward, although she can't wipe that long smile off her face. It seems to stretch from cheek to cheek without really touching her eyes, as if something is constantly amusing her. Once she reaches Lotus, she bows. Greetings, Lotus. It is far, far past time that we met. Lotus sort of looks her up and down and sort of nod bows to her and nod bows to De Novo. Says, that was a lot more subtle than I was expecting, given your last encounter with a spirit in these halls.
She is subtle. I am not. Well, I am but an old man.
Well, darling, why don't we work on that? Phoenix, you look ravishing tonight. That is a wonderful dress you have. She deliberately, if De Novo goes to speak, she just cuts off and switches to Terrell.
Why, thank you, and you look wonderful as well.
Tell me, is this one of Baldpeen's creations? I recognize his handiwork.
I'm sorry, whose creations?
Striking Baldpeen. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Striking Baldpeen is Sagacious Hands Taylor.
Ah, yes. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I know that. I just couldn't hear for some reason on my end. Yes it is.
Delightful. You might want to mention that to anyone you might want to impress.
Oh, absolutely. After all, this is as much, diplomacy mission as it is try and help out Han's notoriety, as it were.
Arthur Shasta.
Hello.
She will actually pronounce your surname, which I can't.
He will be taken aback. That's like the first time he's heard his full name pronounced properly by anyone other than himself.
That is an interesting get-up you're wearing. She asks you about your outfit and attire.
Oh yeah, he'll go over the sort of artistic embellishments made by Sarah, the thematic purpose behind the various points of prose and artistic representation, and the fundamental essence contracts that he's imbued the paper with, so it actually remains firm and functional.
Are you planning on staging something tonight?
When we first came here, I wanted to be as subtle and dignified as possible. I am well aware of I do not wish to seem proud or boastful, and he says it in a manner that implies that he is both proud and boastful of it. But I understand that my appearance does turn a few heads. I did not wish to outshine the ladies at their own debutante ball, but after some of the behavior and things that I've seen in the kingdom since coming here, and if Goran's around, he'll say this slightly louder. He's like, I feel that the people of this region need to see what refinement and dignified behavior looks like. Nobility, if you will.
Well, I suppose we are here on a mission. We can't be completely subtle. As long as you're not going to embarrass anybody.
It's not my intention.
as this conversation is sort of just beginning to wind up, there's a louder voice that just sort of echoes in over the hall. An introduction. Lord Hedden from the Kingdom Hadal. And everyone sort of just pauses for a moment to sort of turn to the entrance as this... The best way to explain this is that it's a recliner on wheels. Just sort of rolls in through the front door, carrying this massive man. He is morbidly obese. He has rolls upon rolls. It almost looks like if he wasn't on this recliner, he wouldn't actually be able to heft his own weight. Adding to the crowd of people around, he's tended to by 7 exquisite beauties who look bought, who are all wearing sort of veils that sort of cover their nose to mouth down, but otherwise are wearing sort of dresses very similar to the one that Righteous Lotus is wearing, and she shows some small amount of embarrassment to that fact. At this point, another man in a sort of like he's been milling about already, because he's wearing sort of a very simple black suit. He doesn't look particularly dressed up, but he nonetheless looks quite formal. This deep blue shirt outlined by this black jacket and trousers that he's wearing, sort of finely polished shoes. He's very well groomed, to sort of a short beard that sort of covers his both lips, his chin up into his hair. That's also sort of short back and sides, a little longer on top. He steps forward and sort of bows to Hedon. It's nice of you to join us, Lord Hedon. I thought you'd never arrive. See Hedon sort of chuckle to himself and goes to say something as one of the serving girls that are flanking him sort of just strokes him on the shoulder and sticks a grape into his mouth. He sort of just chews it down and swallows it, and they sort of... It doesn't look like anyone's wheeling this chair, it just seems to move wherever Hedon wants it to go. They certainly don't seem to be pushing it for him, but they are constantly moving around him, grabbing stuff off plates, drinks and things, and feeding him constantly. The man who's been somewhat snubbed, sort of... Well... And then sort of glancing around, feeling a bit out of place now, sort of walks up to your group and introduces himself. Hi. I am Soren Madish. How do you do?
Pleasure to meet you.
Tarala gives a sort of a curtsy bow and introduces herself as, I am Jade Phoenix Soul. Pleasure to meet you.
Jade Phoenix?
And my name is Shalom. She interrupts over the top, her hand out towards this gentleman. And you can call me. Wait. She just smiles that smirky smile.
You can see him go right along with it, and he sort of smiles back and sort of dips, takes her hand, kisses it on the back, languishes a little bit, shows her a little bit more attention.
She runs her fingernails down the side of his face. And may I introduce to you De Novo, my master. Though he considers me his apprentice, he's not very much. And she puts both hands now on his shoulder to turn him away from De Novo. He's a little hard of hearing in his old age. It's much better to talk to me than anyone else. Don't you agree?
Wouldn't have it any other way, he replies, sort of just holding out his arm to Lupin to take hers.
Question, did you want me to lead him away? Or should I move on to other people to interrupt over the top of? No, I'm not leading him away? Okay. So that is for if because he was in the middle of introducing to Jade Phoenix Soul, she's going to lead, like, kind of direct his attention so he stares at her rather than at De Novo. And she's going to do that for anyone who comes close and they start doing the introductions. She's going to step forward with this long, luxurious leg that she will be drawing attention to as she raises her hand from her knee up her body to extend her hand out towards them, eyes locked on them, as she smiles and directs everything she damn can again away from De Novo. Super seductive as much as possible. Meow.
Okay. These conversations go on. So what I might do is just go through the cast of characters, and you can tell me if anyone particularly strikes your notice, anyone you specifically want to talk to. When people are getting introduced, Righteous Lotus will find time to sort of just subtly mention to everybody, you know, who they are, even sometimes even sort of taking over to introduce them herself. So Sora Madish is from a kingdom named Geras, and in his hometown he's known as the Promissary. He's basically a wealthy banker, and doesn't actually hold an official title in the kingdom at all, and is not much is sort of really known about him. He just sort of attends parties and, you know, makes deals and lends money and things like that. As far as she's concerned, there's nothing particularly noteworthy about him. Hayden, as she mentions to the rather grotesque, large, obese man, he is from a kingdom named Hadal, as the under-butler had mentioned when he was introduced in. Hadal was once not a very prosperous kingdom at all, but lately they've had a fantastic string of luck. And have secured a lot of sort of trade contracts, which has sort of made them more or less the nouveau riche. And it's generally considered that they don't spend their money very wisely. They tend to just sort of flitter it away on random endeavors. There's a older woman who is probably the last to get introduced to you, so I'll come back to her in a minute. Gowron never approaches you, so if you want to speak to him, you'll have to go directly to him. Gowron was the man from the marketplace. The other people here are an older man with a longer beard. He's sort of dressed very similarly to Jonathan and the King, and his name is Andre Wyatt. He's just sort of staff here at the castle, and he introduces himself as the Secretary of State and Foreign Affairs. The main reason that he's here at the moment, and he tells you as such, is to basically meet the bidders, so to speak, and to make sure that everybody's financial claims are above board. He doesn't make any illusions as to why he is there, and that he is here to keep an eye on you and to make sure that you're holding no secrets back, and he seems quite confident that he will uncover anything that you're trying to hide. Whether he will be successful or not, that's another story. There's another
What was
lord.
that person's name?
His name was Andre Wyatt.
Andre Wyatt. Okay, thank you.
One of the regional lords of Kaldor, James Carson. He's relatively young for a lord. He's maybe 30 at most. He seems to be a little bit out of his element. Like, he's trained to be at court. He has attended court. He had his own coming out party, of course. But he wasn't expecting to... It's clear that he feels a little bit out of his element, and he's here on his own. There's no one else here to sort of help or guide him. He doesn't make any particular mention of anything about himself other than just to introduce himself, and takes particular interest in Terala because he's heard a lot about the Ebullient Excelsior and wanted to go and see a show or two while they were here.
So he's talking to he's taking time to talk to Terala. She will say, "I'll see if I can arrange setting up a with Sagacious Hand about setting up a performance in your area."
At the moment you mention the Sagacious Hand, he says, "Ah, yes, and where is the loquacious fellow?"
Oh my, he is fashionably late, as befits somebody, such as him.
He chuckles along with you. What's the best way to say this? Yeah, he chuckles along with you. It's like, I hope not too fashionable, or otherwise we'll all miss our chance to see the fellow.
Oh, he wouldn't want that. I mean, he will arrive when the show demands it.
I see. How fascinating. What else can you tell me about what else can you tell me about him? He just seems to want to talk to you about, like, he's sort of, you can tell he's taken by you being here, but clearly you're acting as a link to Sagacious Hand, and it becomes very clear very quickly that he's not so much interested in you as he is interested in seeing and talking to Sagacious Hand.
Well, Terala then will amuse him, tell certain tales of, performances past and stuff like that, just to kind of help build up the legend. That way, when Hand does show up, somebody's even, more, wow, he's here, that sort of thing. But she's not going to divulge anything, like, secret about him, mostly because of the fact, while Terala has known him, she doesn't know probably nearly half the secrets that Hand has.
Okay, with that in mind, would you like to do an instill or something, or just leave that for a later on start?
I am going to, well, since clearly he's got an intimacy on there, I'm going to try to do a presence roll to strengthen that intimacy on Sagacious Hand.
Okay.
So, will that be charisma plus, performance, or it would be...
You being forthright?
Since I'm playing off of it, or not presence, would that be charisma or manipulation based on how I'm doing this?
Depends. Do you agree with how you're, like, are you lying to him and trying to deceive him, or do you genuinely feel this?
I've never seen, just out of character, I've never really seen manipulation as necessarily lying. It's more twisting, if you were.
Yeah. So essentially the way I run it is, if you're going to roll, if you're being forthright about how you feel and your emotions and things, then you roll charisma. If you're not necessarily being deceitful, but if you have a specific goal in mind and what you're saying doesn't necessarily line up with how you feel, then that would be manipulation.
So I'm going to go with charisma. Granted, the goal is to make him more malleable to when Hand shows up, because presumably, like, what I'm planning on doing with Terala is making her, like, sort of soften people up to the suggestions that Hand makes.
Okay. So this
you're not going to change the role whatsoever because they're both 3.
No, that's okay. I was just trying to check how you're going about doing this, because it will become relevant in a moment. So your charisma plus your presence,
All right.
You haven't really described your action, so I'll give you that quick chance if you want to get any stunt die for this.
So basically, during the time, she, I'm assuming there are places to sit and everything around here.
Yeah. So these sorts of conversations can take place. You're not necessarily just standing around in a group and people coming up to you. You're sort of milling about, although you're trying to stick together as much as possible.
Yeah, she pulls him over to a place a little bit to the side, grabs a drink, takes it to him, and just she's regaling like, "Oh, have you heard of his left hand illusion, or his like things like that," like trying to just tell stories of the various acts he has done in a way that more or less imposes a legend toward this, rather than necessarily she's trying to make him seem more legendary than mortal, as it were. After all, he's a showman.
Okay. Just before you make this roll, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What kind of intimacy ties do you have towards Sagacious Hand?
She has an intimacy of respect for him. And as of recently, an intimacy of friendship.
Okay. Make a roll, please.
All right.
Oh, sorry, I'll give you 1 point stun. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Awesome. Let me just double check the details on my charm. I think it's one of the ones that gives me extra dice on a 10.
Just for those watching, a 1 point stunt gives a bonus 2 dice and is awarded if someone takes the time to describe their action rather than just saying what it is that they do. A 2 point stunt awards 2 dice and 1 success and 1 point of willpower, and is awarded for something that's a highlight of a scene. So a stunt that, within the span of a single scene, sort of just takes particular and special notice. A 3 point stunt awards 2 die, or 2 dice should I say, 2 successes and 2 willpower points, and that's usually reserved for the highlights of a session.
All right. Along with this, as I am attempting to instill this intimacy, afterwards, can I attempt to sort of read his intentions in the way he's trying to, about what he's trying to learn? Because, like I said, I'm not putting anything forward that, anybody who has heard of this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, I'm going to spend 2 motes on Glowing Coal Radiance to buy 1 success, and that makes it so any 10s I roll proc non-charm dice.
Okay, sorry, what's your appearance?
My appearance is 3. I don't know if my outfit would provide like a temporary dot or anything like that.
It wouldn't, but it functions as equipment, so take +1 non-charm die on that.
Okay, so I have two from the stunt, 1 non-charm, 1 success, so that is 3 dice plus. So I have 6 dice plus the 3 non-charm and 1 success.
Okay.
So 9 dice.
Hopefully we'll get a little bit faster in this rolling routine, but let's have a look.
Okay, so that was only 2 successes total. I'm glad I kind of bought that, because, yeah.
So that's your instill?
Yeah, that's my instill. I'm going to, again, now I'm going to try to read his intentions, and again, any spending I'm doing right now is sort of from peripheral. I am going to spend from peripheral to buy 2 successes on my socialize roll, and it's perception plus socialize?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 5 dice, plus 1 if you allow the whole being in a big party thing to apply.
Oh, you have a specialty?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 6 dice plus 2 successes. And I'm going to try to stunt that. She's kind of keeping an eye on him, like seeing whenever she mentions anything, seeing how he reacts to it and things like that, just to kind of feel like what he's kind of looking for in this.
Okay. So So are you trying to guess at an intimacy or guess at his goal for the scene?
Yeah, goal for the scene for just read intentions for specifically why hand.
Okay.
That one is 4 successes on the roll plus 2 automatic successes.
Quick explanation for our viewers. You can see the roller come up just below my portrait. It's pulling directly from a chat box we're using in Discord. It's a nice little widget there called RPBot. Unfortunately, it doesn't count 10s twice, so we have to manually add that in. So it says 3, but we can see there's one 10 in there, and 10s count as 2 dice. So that's actually 4 successes plus the one that you bought, so 5.
No, I bought 2 on that
bought
one.
2, sorry, 6.
Yep.
Okay. Lord Carcer.
And for the scene, I'm in Fire Aura, by the way.
Now you're in Fire Aura?
I'm not glowing, I'm just in the aura for further charm use, any that keys off the aura keyword.
But that doesn't have any visual component, as I understood?
No
Okay.
visual component. I'm just letting you know so when I bring it up.
Okay, cool. So Lord Carson, or Lord James Carson, the more and more that you talk to him, the more sort of familial he gets, the more sort of relaxed he becomes, as if he's talking to a friend. You're not too sure whether or not any of your efforts has bolstered his interest in Sagacious Hand, but during your conversation, he lets slip that he's actually here on his own because his family have all recently perished to a plague. And he's like the youngest heir who's suddenly been thrust into the position of Arl, or sort of lord of his whole estate, which he totally wasn't ready for. So his goal at this particular setting is to try and associate himself with the most prestigious people as possible, to sort of not so much hide behind them, but sort of get that kind of notoriety, so that he can be seen with the most influential people, so he can either hide, so if someone tries to talk to him, he can divert them to this other influential person instead, or use his presence with that influential person to bolster his own position, just to sort of give himself a little bit more confidence, because right now he's not feeling very confident. And since your Inspire action was actually successful, I am going to give you your roll bonus, because as a fire dragon-blooded, you're all about them's emotions and inspiring your own emotions in others.
Very nice.
Take 2 dragon XP.
Yay! And I'm now out of XP debt in my dragon XP.
Does anyone else want to interact with James Carson before we move on?
No, but I do want to talk to Soren Madesh.
Soren Medish.
Madesh.
I may or may not have stolen a name. Well, he is sort of hanging off the arm of Shiroi at the moment. Would you have seen Shiroi in her human form at all?
Oof, maybe? I mean, we were in Nexus for a while and we were trying to accumulate as much blackmail information, so I could see her in her humanoid form being helpful with that.
You were mostly talking to ghosts. Avis, can you send us a quick message to let us know if you can still hear us?
Avis has been sending me some information on Shiroi and the way in which she interacts. She's going to be, when she can, talking to Righteous Lotus when there aren't other people that are moving their way through the situation. She's not, like, she'll engage people in conversation, but she's not going to necessarily go out of her way to stalk people down. She's more interested in sitting back, or should I say standing back, and watching this all play out.
Okay. Okay, so so Soren Medish, as as Righteous Lotus has mentioned to you, is known in his land as the Promissary. He's basically the owner of one of the biggest banks of his kingdom, and is usually involved. He's basically just a businessman. He's no one. Not that he's not important. He's important, but he there's really nothing to him other than money. Okay, cool. So no one has seen Shroy in her human form before. Thank you very much, Avis via Vero. So this would be the first time you're seeing Shroy in her human form. She is, I think, as beautiful, if not slightly less beautiful than you.
Kindred spirit.
It's saying something.
Slightly less.
But yeah, I think Soren, even if he's not able to help in this exact situation, is not a bad contact to make.
Okay.
He seems like a self-made guy. Unlike Helden, he actually seems like he knows to handle his money, where in their country seems like it's going to be going to bankruptcy in a generation. From the way they handle their finances. So, I mean, even if he can't help here, this might be a potential contact and good resource for Lambert Heights. So I want to kind of get a feel for him. Mostly my interaction is I would like to do a read intentions to discern any intimacies that he has towards like economics or finance. Sort of, I want to see if he's just like a spread the wealth kind of guy, like all rising tides lift all boats, or if he's just like, no man, you just come in corporate raider style and liquidate everything and then gut it and leave it for dead. So because I want to figure out like, oh, is this a guy we want to be in business with? Okay. So the way I'm going to kind of broach it, I'm not just going to be like, hey, are you a vicious money hogger who's going to leave us for dead? I would like to do a established fact. Oh, okay. And in the same way that we have the metaphor of the, the grasshopper and the ant. I had to get out of Futurama reference of grasshopper and octopus. That there are sort of different animal philosophies based on physical theory. Like if you're like a pure communist, that would be sort of like described as the vampire bat, because they actually do accumulate. Like if one can't feed enough, they will share their blood with another bat and then like actually build bet networks that they trade among their cave group. Or if you're like the squirrel who just hoards everything and prepares for the winter, or are you more like the beaver that hoards but in a like sort of central commune, like where you share in a strong family group even though that you're trying to acquire as much as you can? So that's sort of ideal.
Okay. It sounds a lot like the the Chinese like year of the horse, year of the dog, year of the rabbit. Like what sort of feeling is this? That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the fact you're trying to establish?
There are these various animal-themed fiscal policies that I can sort of allude to instead of just asking him outright what his loan terms are, stuff like that. Okay. So I'm not like directly outright. We're kind of doing it more wordplay and sort of illusion and stuff like that. Okay.
I will... I'll make that difficulty 1 because it sounds like something that would just naturally arise in language. Sort of symbolism and metaphor is big in pretty much any language. So I'll say difficulty 1. And if you do manage to establish this, I'll give you a 2-point stunt on your read intentions, so long as you describe your action.
All right. Well, I have harmonious. God, what's the name of the term?
Presence, meditation?
No, academic methodology. Oh. It's an intro lore term, and it says when I am establishing a fact, I have a number of automatic successes equal to my essence. So at difficulty 1, I will just succeed at that.
Established.
But sort of as I'm going through and describing the various ways that animals behave, I will sort of represent this by, moving food off of trays as waiters as they come by, sort of like three-card Monty moving them around occasionally for more voracious types of animals. The tray will just be fed to Johan, who will just scarf it down. He will be my visual aid along with the hors d'oeuvres and drinks being served.
Okay, I'll give you 2 points done to read intentions in. Are you trying to look for motivation for the scene or guess at an intimacy?
Intimacy is related to how he feels about money.
Sorry. There's a bit of chat going on in our Discord as well. And our special guest star Corgi running around in the background is... Ooh, okay. 6 successes.
And I think that's 6 successes because of the stunt.
That's actually 7 successes because of the stunt. There's 2 10s in there.
I can count.
Yes, and you get a willpower back in case you've spent any, or it just can't exceed your maximum.
Yeah, that's been banked. I'm gonna need that for later.
His reply is something along the lines of he prefers the coiling serpent, who not so much strangles its opposition, but makes sure that it's always in. It never strikes unless it's sure of a kill, and its scales are coins that constantly shed the covetous serpent, essentially, constantly shedding money with every kill. Essentially, this translates: he has a defining principle. It's not gambling if you know the outcome.
All right, excellent.
Also, whilst you are speaking with him, the hairs on the back of your neck begin to tingle, and you feel like you could benefit from a profile character action.
Is Sagacious hand behind a curtain again? God damn that charm!
It was a tapestry.
It's like, welcome back. You excited? That's over than I thought.
That charm is wonderful.
I'm going to spend 4 peripheral notes on this.
Okay. Social scenes are always such overflowing with information. Poof. Okay. At a few key moments during the conversation, as he gets more excited and sort of as part of his descriptions, like, he reaches up, the sleeve of his shirt and jacket sort of comes back a little bit, and you can see a bit of a rash forming around his wrist.
Sorry, cut out there a little bit. What does he have around his wrist?
He has a rash on his wrist. You can tell that he's done something to his hand, because it sort of just cuts off abruptly, and he apparently hasn't hasn't prepared fully, because he hasn't, whatever it is that he's done to get rid of the rash off his hand, he hasn't done all the way up his wrist. So when he reaches up and his sleeve pulls back, you can see it there. And you recognize this rash as not so much an allergic reaction, but a common dermatological, I'll say, reaction of skin to certain herbs. So it looks like he's been handling something as if he were like you would see this kind of rash on a newly started apothecary who didn't know how to wear proper gloves or didn't have the right lotion to wipe onto their hands afterwards, that sort of thing. Can't hear you.
Stupid push to talk. If I recall, didn't Sagacious Hand say something strange was afoot about the apothecary?
He did. Well, he didn't say anything. He said nothing was strange about the apothecary. It was all in order. They cleaned it up.
Uh-huh.
He also did let them know that there is no apothecary, that he died several months ago, and to a plague, I believe, and because of what had happened in the scene prior of like, hey, you, don't be stealing stuff, as Sagacious Hand goes over and just helps himself to stuff. There's no one there to pay, so he just let them know that regarding medical treatment and picking up herbs, apothecaries, whatever, there's no one there.
I have medicine 3. Can I identify the type of medicinal herbs that he's been using that would create that skin reaction?
You could narrow the list, but you wouldn't be able to know for sure unless you had some way of knowing what he's been exposed to recently.
Okay. Are any of them like super questionable? Like, and this is what you'd use if you wanted to, I don't know, poison an entire debutante ball.
Some of them would definitely be poisonous. Some of them as quote unquote innocuous as lavender.
Mm-hmm. I will not say anything, but I will casually sort of scratch between my braids delicately to not disrupt, but to ever so lightly jostle the lavender. Draw attention to it.
You're drawing attention to the lavender. Is that what you said?
My connection, I think, is getting a little wonky.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Let me just disconnect from the chat real quick and join in.
Okay.
I'm just very glad that Sagacious Hand got to run his hands through that magnificent purple mane of softness.
But yeah, what I said is he'll scratch his head to jostle the lavender and draw attention to it.
Oh, okay. When you do this, Soren, as he's just been sort of just chatting rather nonchalantly, looks up and he makes comment of the lavender in your hair, and that it's such an interesting choice. It certainly accentuates this, these wonderful long locks that you have. It's an interesting choice to sort of braid in, scented flowers and things like that. It is an interesting choice. He's sort of just paying you a compliment.
And they're like, well, the compliment really should go to Sagacious Hand. I don't think anyone would be exaggerating to say that he has a much more stronger sense of artistic expression than I do.
On the topic of Sagacious Hand, Soren asks, would the leader of the Aberlin Excelsior be joining us this evening? Seems strange that he isn't here already.
I can't confirm or deny his attendance here tonight. Other than a showtime, pinning him down is a near impossible task. When the muse takes him, off he goes, and like so many true great artists, he finds inspiration from life. So there's no inspiration there's no lack of adventure for him to find.
Okay. Was there anything further with Saw and Madish before we move on? From anyone? Sorry, did you just say something, Shock? Your connection is a little weird. It's skipping a bit.
Oh, I was just going to say no. I mostly want to figure out his monetary philosophy.
Okay, cool. Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Okay, cool. So next on the list of people who sort of come around and either introduce themselves or you get introduced to by Righteous Lotus is Lady Ayana Rothwell and Lord Ephraim Rothwell. They are joined by their 4 sons, Malachi Rothwell, Nikolai, and Alexei. Malachi, Nikolai, Alexei, and Julian. There's quite a number of them. Lady Ayana and Lord Ephraim are sort of Arls, insofar as, like, well, he would be the Arl and she would be the Arlessa. There are... sorry, I keep forgetting her name. Righteous Lotus describes them as a very old family who have been in Kaldor for a long time. It's curiously, whether you find this interesting or not, Lady Ayana and Lord Ephraim both have sort of deep red hair, like almost auburn, whereas the rest of their sons either have straight out sort of dark brown hair or a sort of more of a sandy blonde. The red doesn't seem to have passed on at all. I'm sorry, I got that completely wrong. Ignore everything I just said.
Okay.
Lady Ayana is a brunette. She has very dark hair. Lord Ephraim has very bright blonde hair. And the boys all have variations of that dark hair to light blonde. Ooh, I've just lost video with you, Culture. Are you still with us, audio? Oh, there you're back now. Is it being funny?
Oh, there's a guest.
We also can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Push to talk, man.
Oh God, sorry. Push to talk. One of these days, I'll get the hang of this. Yeah, it seemed like the moment I interacted with Skype, it kicked back on. I wonder if it has some sort of weird time off. I don't know.
Shouldn't.
Yeah. Seems like with the camera, you want to just sit there and continually record.
Yeah, it's sort of like sometimes it'll skip, your image will pause, and then play back the last 2 minutes in fast forward. So I think it's just a connection issue. And it's doing it again.
That's the problem. Setting something up with TCP instead of UDP.
Well, let's.
While we're just quickly ironing out the technical difficulties, now I haven't actually got word to do this from Avis. He's just popping out for a minute and we'll be right back. So naturally, I'm taking full advantage of his absence. I think that De Novo would probably benefit from activating a charm called Spirit Detecting Glance. I don't know if it was already active, but he didn't tell me that he's activated it. So because he has, like, flat out said he trusts me, I would like to activate that charm, please.
Okay. It's a good thing you did, because Gamma Karma Senin is present.
Aha.
He's not interacting with anybody. He is just watching the proceedings from above. Instead of on the balcony, he's sort of perched up on top of the chandelier burning with 100 candles at the moment. Sort of just looking down at everyone. He's sort of sitting lotus style, but his legs are wrapped tight enough around the chain that he won't fall. And sort of just looking down on everyone, just smoking on his giant ladle. Now, for the audience who might not have met Gamakama Sennen before, he is an enormous, about 10-foot tall toad spirit who has I suppose you would call it like an armor breast piece, which is a tortoiseshell on the front and back. He carries with him a large spoon and a long ladle, which he uses as if it was a pipe. And he's just watching the proceedings from above.
De novo, Avis is actually away from the computer at the moment, so I'll have until I have specific instructions. De novo will keep an eye on our guest.
Okay. So continuing the introduction, Ayana and Ephraim Rothwell, they're an old family. They've been here in Kowloon for quite some time. They do mention that they have one of the sons, probably Nikolai, mentions that they do have a younger brother, Adrian, but he's only 9, so he sort of isn't invited, and he's currently being looked after in their rooms upstairs, the suites upstairs, by their nanny Lady Claire. Otherwise, they're landowners from the region, and they have quite a strong sort of family lineage. You can tell that's probably one of the strongest families here because they have the most heirs.
Shiroi would like to do a read intentions action on, like, how do they feel about the kingdom, how do they feel about the king. I, however, don't have those things to make a roll, so I'll just let you know that that would be the intent. Be like, oh,
that's right, I
the
do.
oldest ones here in the kingdom. As she extends a hand out to each of them in turn. Pleasure. For you, I'm sure.
Sorry, one moment.
It is just to fill the space whilst looking for sheets. It's always interesting having lots of retainers, lots of extra characters, lots of but all these really cool things you can do, but then it's like, no, it's in a sheet I haven't opened yet. One moment. I hope I'm doing De Novo proud by activating things and taking actions that he should be taking.
That's okay. 9 dice. So Avis, I've just got a message that you've rejoined us, just so that you're aware. While you were gone, Vero activated Spirit Detecting Glance for you. You've noticed that Gamakama Sennen is sort of up in the giant chandelier hanging over the entrance hall, just keeping an eye on the proceedings. Shiroi is in the middle of doing a read intentions on the latest family to have been introduced to them, just to get their general feelings of the kingdom. I'll let you do this in one roll. It's 9 dice, and I'll give you a 1 point stun. So roll 11 dice.
I'm assuming that Avis is rolling, so I'm just sitting here quietly.
Yes, he is.
There are so many people interested in Sagacious Hand. Oh.
2?
Oh. Oh.
Okay. So if Shiroi, however she can pass on this information, if she does, gets a strong impression that these people are, their family has long had strong ties to the Tydeus family. and they fully accept and respect Marcus's reign, and they consider him a great and noble leader, and will do anything they can to support him. They are as staunchly monarchist as you can get, or patricist. Does that actually change? It's still a monarchy if it's a king, right?
It's explicitly a monarchy if it's a king or queen.
Anyway, is anyone else interested in these particular lords, ladies, and their sons, or shall we move on to someone else?
Denovo will wave at the at Gamakama Senin cheerfully and point him out to Lotus.
Gamakama Senin ignores him. When you point it out to Lotus, though, she asks what it is that he's on about. Like, what's up? Is the chandelier? Oh, it's lovely. You know, trying to make him look a little less strange and eccentric.
No. The toad spirit, the frog spirit is there.
Fantastic. Is it doing anything?
No.
Do you know what its job?
Yet.
Do you know what its job or task is?
It seems to be just watching us.
Well, good. I suppose if that changes, you'll let us know.
I'm being directed to snark at her, and I don't know how to do that. Okay, you know what? At her rather dismissive attitude towards Denovo, he's just he's gonna do the old man sniff the air, like, stop thinking everyone's your equal. That's offensive to a lot of people, as he moves away from her.
I'm sorry, you've done this. As he's sort of sniffing and sort of marching off, she'd respond,
Oh, I can't hear you.
and raise up many more, present company included.
I'm sorry, you cut out. I actually missed what you said. Something about raise up many more.
Raise up many more, present company included.
Oh.
For those of you who are watching, these two do not get along.
You know the picture from the screen of that slightly tilted, like, hands to the face, oh dear God face? Avis is sending me many, many emotes of that. I'm sorry. Yep, exactly that.
Was anyone interested in interacting with Ayana or Ephraim? Or their sons?
At this point, it would just be mostly just the small talk, things like that, you know, just mingling like at a party.
Yeah,
just the mingling, that sort of thing.
We'll assume that lots of small talk happens, because that can eat up so much time. We're just going to...
No, yeah, I know.
blaze through.
If I'm not saying anything, and just kind of assume that Tarala would be doing the you know, mingle, small talk, you know, that sort of thing.
How's the weather? Terrible, actually. It's in decline, haven't you noticed? Next on the roster... oh, sorry, yes?
The Rothwells, I would just like to bring up with them that Alexander Marcus has asked us to look into the blight that is coming across the land. And while this is not really the time and place for it, while they are in the capital, if they could, as obviously the largest landowners in Caldon, clearly they have to be the most knowledgeable about what's going on. So if they could give me just a little bit of their time to discuss the trouble and the way that it's affecting their territory, why they're here, I'd appreciate it.
Lady Ayana responds to it. Basically, they're all quite chuffed that Alexander Marcos has been so proactive in asking a clearly an expert in the matter to sort of look into it. This is part of why this whole thing is going on. So they're very happy with this news, and Lady Rothwell essentially just invites you to morning tea tomorrow, so that they could discuss it at length.
Perfect.
Do they invite his delightful dog?
The dog comes with no matter what. Or a package deal.
Yes. Everyone's delighted by your dog, by the way. So, fans of a little thing. A rare breed. Never seen that kind of thing before, so a lot of people would be asking about it, giving you a chance to pomp and preem over it. Next on the list is Lord Andre Wyatt. Now, Lord Wyatt is, as Righteous Lettuce doesn't actually know anything about him. She's never heard of Lord Andre Wyatt. But when he introduces himself, he just says he's a friend of the family, and that he was basically, he talks himself down. He basically says, I was gifted the title after the war. It's more honorary than anything. I'm not really a landowner here. So he just sort of shrugs off any kind of honor. He doesn't like servants waiting on him, that sort of thing. He prefers to do everything by himself. Certainly not... you get the impression he's not used to this sort of richness and pomp. But he is nonetheless... at least puts on airs that he's sort of quite honored to be part of the kingdom. He's just not really sure if he really needs or deserves the title of Lord.
Since you said he's been doing that introduction and everything, I'm just gonna do like a basic read intentions, just to kind of see if just try to determine if this is like truthful what he's saying. I'm not like going to be like what's in it, like intimacy or anything like that. Just trying to see if this is an act or not. Just the way he's carrying himself right now.
Okay. Don't bother making a roll. He doesn't apply guile here. He's not putting on airs at all. He's been quite forthright.
He's being genuine. Cool.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure that out.
The other thing of note about him is, while Tarala, you are quite positive that he is not of the blood, as in not actually exalted, you and Arthashasta very easily pick out the sort of the slight nuances of like a woody hereditary in him. His hair falls almost like vines, and he sort of has that sort of mix of earthy and wood type aspect markings that are usually seen in people of high breeding.
Is there something
say anything, but she makes note of it, like mentally.
I'm sorry, that was two people at once?
Oh, sorry.
That was my fault.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was just saying, she just makes a mental note of that. She's not gonna like say anything, not draw attention to it. Just make it a mental note of what she sees.
Okay. Vey, what did you need to say?
I didn't need to say anything. It's just I'm watching along with the Twitch stream so I can see faces, but there is a delay. And for a moment I forgot that because of the delay, I could see you speaking, but I couldn't hear anything. And the extended pause made me wonder if I was missing part of the conversation. I'm not. I was just foolish. So I will now mute myself.
That's right. Okay. Does anyone want to interact with Wyatt at all, or?
Tarala might just ask him, like, just some things. So what do you think of this whole situation here? What's going on? Like, terrible with this blight and everything that seems to be going on. But do you think that this is the right course of action? That sort of thing. Like just like what's going on, what the Lord is doing. Do you consider it the most prudent course of action?
And what is it that you think that the Lord is doing about it?
Well, this whole gathering to potentially, as in a way, sell off everything. Sort of auctioning, as it were. Or, as some might say, allowing others to invest in another kingdom, kind of put it under their own.
Loans between kingdoms are sometimes quite common. What makes you think that this would be particularly disastrous?
Oh, nothing. I'm just. I was wondering if you think that. I was just curious if you think that this is the proper course of action, or should we have seen maybe tried to see if there are thaumaturges or anything like that to possibly deal with anything before resorting to the outside, indebting themselves to another king, or basically indebting turning their kingdom into someone else's. What does the realm call those? Satrapies, as it were.
He doesn't seem to take very well to this line of questioning, almost as if you've insulted him. His response is essentially just, he has full faith in King Alexander Marcus, no matter what Jonathan might do or say. And that if any opportunity was to arise for a better option, he would take it. As I have been informed, your crew has been enlisted to look into a possible mystical cause, have you not?
Well, this is true. I'm just curious of why we are.
He cuts you off.
Then
it's well in hand, isn't it? The king can trust you, can't he?
She gives a nod and backs away.
Andre, is it safe to assume that you have been working for the royal family for a while now?
Lord Wyatt to you.
Well, Your Highness, is it correct in assuming that you have been serving the family for quite some time?
I am not a king. Lord Wyatt will suffice.
Lord Wyatt?
I may not think much of the title, but it is one that I possess.
You've been serving the Marcus family for how long now?
Almost 2 decades, if you must know.
When you have some time tomorrow, could I meet with you maybe a late lunch? One of our companions has a gift they'd like to give to the king to represent his long reign and the establishment of the Marcus family in this area. But we are having a few issues or discrepancies with the family tree. If you could help iron out a few wrinkles, fill in a few missing branches, I would really appreciate it.
He looks at you for a long moment. Well, I don't know what tawdry secret you're looking to uncover, but sure. I will indulge you. I can assure you His Majesty is above reproach.
If he may not know, bear in mind, in my outfit, I have the family tree with the excised branches on it. So I'm not being very subtle if when I'm like, so you know a lot about the family history and missing parts of this information.
He doesn't recognize the picture, or at least he makes no sign that he does.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. Next we have Lord Nathaniel Dalton. He is a very old man, probably late 60s. The information Righteous Lotus knows about this man is that his family isn't particularly old, or even though he is. They sort of rose into nobility when they're sort of like a second cousin of a second cousin sort of died in... one of the noble families essentially died off during the war, and he inherited as second cousin to second cousin sort of thing. Just sort of like how the line went down. He doesn't actually have any heirs of himself. Sorry, he has a single heir, a young girl who is 2 years old and currently has no wife, for she died in childbirth. Interestingly about this young girl is that she is here with him, cradled in his arms, and he never lets anyone else hold her or do anything with her. He just keeps her with him at all times, decorum be damned. If anyone asks the young child's name, her name is Hyacinth. Anyone interested in interacting there? Keep in mind that these are people who are going to be here throughout the next time, so you can interact with them at any point.
Again, just usual small talk, that sort of thing.
Pleasantries, cool.
Just try to get a feel for, like, oh, hey, hi there, how are you? What? So where are you from? What kingdom and everything, that sort of thing.
Okay, last on the list of people who are generally present here is an older woman who is sort of dressed... she's dressed finely, and she does wear some fine jewellery as well, but she's not sort of overly done up. You could almost call her rather modest as far as the court here is concerned. Her sense of fashion is probably a couple decades old, but she wears it anyway, and she doesn't give a damn what anyone thinks. She only introduces herself as Miserly Weathered Page. So Miserly is so old that her skin appears as if cracked parchment barely hanging onto her bones. Still, her age has not yet affected her mobility or sharpness of mind. She has stark white hair collected up in a sweeping bun that is clasped in place by an intricate golden cage and pin. One would almost think her a queen herself from her countenance, if she was not always so humble in passing on compliments or tittering about her own failings. Righteous Lotus knows about this woman and warns you to be careful around her. Not much is known about her, but somehow, some way, she usually always gets her way. She doesn't have anything of particular interest to say to you, but she does make a point of introducing herself. And pointing out that Goron seems to be wandering around like a dog with his tail between his legs. Gowron, sorry, not Goron. Gowron.
Yes, that's because he got kicked earlier.
Oh, and was it you who did the kicking?
No, I merely stood up for what I thought was right. I believe that sullen look on his face is because that oft-ignored thing called a conscience reared up in his ugly little head.
Oh, yes, it's quite ugly. Not like you, of course. Such a statuesque man. Where did you say you were from?
Valavad on the Dreaming Sea.
Ah, yes, I've heard a few things about it. Lovely things. I'm sure everything is well. What brings you so far north?
Journeys and explorations into the unknown. Creation is a wide place and full of mysteries.
That dog of yours, tame, is it? The dog of yours, tame, is it?
Oh, of course. I wouldn't bring some sort of feral animal into a place like this. Like, show your respect, and he'll kind of sit and sort of bow his head and let out a low woof.
Oh, very lively. Oh, and she just reaches down and gives him a bit of a pat. An unusual pet. Where did you acquire such an interesting animal?
Many leagues from here. Like I said, creation is a rich tapestry.
Does it do any tricks?
Oh, does he? Yeah, I'll put him through the motions. The normal, sit, down, shake. Then I'll have him do some more complicated things like puff smoke out of his nose and do like a tight backflip.
Oh, marvelous! Very, very interesting. Yes, and when did it pass on the shard of exigence to you?
Oh, that was a little over 2 years now.
2 years. And it does what you say.
Yes, but not in the way that a lord would command a soldier. More like two friends.
Oh, careful, my dear. And she sort of just pats you on the chest. If you do any more backpedaling, you might as well leave the party. Good night. And wanders off. Bom bom. Just as this possible, I don't know, you don't know, it's hard to tell. After this is just sort of finished, it almost seems ready that, almost seems like a fanfare is about to sort of pick up and sort of start introducing when the underbutler calls out again. Sorry, one moment, I need to get the name because I have immediately forgotten it. His Lordship Jonas Auric of the Kingdom of... Oh, jeez, I've forgotten the kingdom's name now. I am so sorry. Tiburana. His Lordship Jonas Auric of the Kingdom Tiburana. As everyone turns to the doorway, this sort of stocky man with heavily etched features, almost as if he was carved from stone, sort of just strides in. He effortlessly just sort of plucks his coat from his shoulders and just, whips it around his body and holds it aside. He is dressed like a king and has several sort of military honor badges sort of on his dress coat to say that he is not just a king but a general. You see his eyes sort of pan over the entire group. They pause on Jade Phoenix Soul as his eyes narrow, and he nods to her, which is where we will take our first break.
Ooh.
Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. This will just be a short break. I just need to confer with the players, find out how much more time we've got, and then we'll jump straight back on. So if you give us just maybe 5-10 minutes, we'll be right back. Thank you very much for watching. And welcome back. Thank you everybody for sticking with us for that short break. Now, where we last left off, we just learned that walking into this occasion is Jonan Auric, which is significant to one of our characters for a very specific reason. Care to share why, Cal?
Well, kind of murdered her parents. Took the kingdom. And, yeah, there's more, but those are the big two.
So as I mentioned, Jonan strides into the room, whips his coat off in a dramatic fashion and hands it to one of the footmen. Gives everyone a slight bow, just to say hi. And then sees Jade Phoenix Soul, nods, and strides towards her.
She, actually having quite a strong resolve, she gives a polite bow just like it was anybody else. Bow, curtsy, a greeting.
He bows back. Do my eyes deceive me? Or is this Jade Phoenix Soul of the ebullient Excelsior?
She smiles and says, "No, they do not deceive you, for that is she who stands before you."
I was terribly aggrieved to miss your show when you visited my kingdom. I hope I have not offended.
Oh, of course not, of course not. Though, that being said, which kingdom did you say?
Oh gosh, the Kingdom of Tiburana.
I had not joined the ebullient Excelsior at that point. Oh no, it wasn't until a chance meeting in Nexus that I met Sagacious Hand and was brought on board there.
Ah, well, nice to know that no offense has been made.
No, none at all, none at all. And I'm sure if you were to play your cards right, we could put on a show for you in your kingdom.
Really? That would be quite the honor. I've heard that Hand's performances bring a lot of wealth and prosperity to any kingdom that they visit.
Indeed. I'm totally you know, perception socializing this right now. I'm like, God, does he see through this? Does he see through this?
That's one way to know.
And yeah, I'm learning for. No, I am basically doing a read intentions on this to just kind of see if he's genuine or not about this.
Okay. So are you looking for his motivation for the scene, or guessing at an intimacy?
I am trying to get the motivation for this particular moment in the scene, like specifically talking to me, whether it is genuinely the fame of Jade Phoenix Soul, or if they, you know, she's kidding herself in the event that he doesn't recognize her.
Okay, cool. We'll give us that roll. Yeah, I won't award a stunt die for that just yet.
Okay. But yeah, she's continuing to make the talk and just kind of watching eyes, motions, things like that, just because, again, at this point, she's got her, her own, like, story down. She didn't get into there until, you know, she never got her performance under her belt until Nexus, when she was finally unveiled, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So she is playing up her own story with that, and presumably if I don't know if Arthur Shasta or anybody is providing a backup for that one, since they know the drill. So but yeah, that's what she's doing again, and also playing up that, yeah, she could put in a word to make sure that the caravan could come through to visit the kingdom another time.
Okay.
And yes, I am buying the in fact, I'm going to spend a willpower on this one as well.
Okay.
So that's going to be 3 successes, because I'm also spending 4 motes peripheral, which doesn't really matter, even though even if I could spend more, the charm's mute, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you didn't say any
no stun right now.
stun.
No.
Okay. Does the party specialty part take effect?
Yes.
Yes. So 5 total successes.
I could describe Jonan as stone-faced, both figuratively and literally. You can tell that the blood runs strong in him. That sort of grounding force where he almost sort of pulls the world into him. Still, you get the impression that, as you've known your uncle before, even if you didn't know him as well as you would have liked to be able to prevent tragedy, he does like to make a show of his entrances. And much like the young lord who's suddenly been thrust onto the stage, he's trying to immediately associate himself with who he determines to be the most prestigious in the room.
All right. And okay, so knowing that, she is also going to continue again conversing, just again and to sort of draw things up, ask questions, things like that, like since she wasn't there the last time they were there, like what kind of kingdom is it, that sort of thing, you know. Again, just because she herself is obviously interested in bringing the circus over there.
He tells you a lot about the kingdom that you already know. His recollection of its fame and its fortune is impeccable, as you would expect of someone from the royal family. The only interesting detail that seems to change from your particular recollection is he describes an unfortunate event sometime, and this is the very thing that kept him from seeing the Ebullient Excelsior when it was last in the kingdom. There was an unfortunate uprising at the time, which he had to quell and stop the lower classes from trying to overthrow the royals. Unfortunately, the rest of his family didn't survive. So he has had the unfortunate duty of taking the weight of the crown upon himself.
She gives my condolences. That must have been terrible.
Indeed. I loved my niece very much.
I'm sure that her spirit is moved on, and hopefully you will see her next life again.
Undoubtedly. But enough of such matters. We are here for a celebration, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's when the fanfare finally kicks in. Being introduced to you now is Lord Tiberius Alba. He comes forth on the great banister, sort of looking out over the great hall where everyone is milling about and having their drinks and things and being served. Everybody. Thank you so much for coming. And much deeper thanks to our Lord King Marcus and his son Jonathan for hosting this affair here in the castle. For those of you who are new to our kingdom and visiting, many thanks and deepest gratitude to you for making this affair an even grander one by your very presence. I am Lord Tiberius Alba, and it is with great pleasure that I announce to you my daughters, Arensea and Nymphea. And these two ladies sort of come out from behind him as if they were waiting back in the shadows. Both of them a vision in and of themselves, mechanically probably about appearance 3. Done up very, very well, almost wedding attire. They're wearing grand ball gowns. They're wearing sort of light, gauzy veils, such that when they're presented before the king and they are sort of officially welcomed into court society, these can be lifted and that whole ceremony can take place. He goes on at length about about the qualities of each. They are not just beautiful, but they have many skills. Each of them have been trained, heavily in statecraft. Each of them have been trained in, hunting and horseback riding and all of those sorts of things that would be necessary to help run his interests in the land and take over for him when he finally goes or passes. During the ceremony, Righteous Lotus lets you know that Tiberius Alba, as much as the Rothwell family could claim to be the largest landowners in Kaldor, other than, of course, the king, Tiberius Alba is the oldest. As far as she is aware, the Alba family and the Tydeus family basically founded this kingdom. And it was only by the Albas sort of bowing to the Tydean family that actually allowed them to then take the crown and become the ruling family. Otherwise, there probably would have been a civil war of some kind, but it was avoided because the ancestral Albas decided that it was not worth the fight, and they allowed the Tydeans to take control. Very, very old family. but you notice that his family isn't very large. It's just him and his 2 daughters. After this procession is complete, this announcement seems very formal. Everyone gives a soft round of applause as the girls descend either sides of the staircases down. They sort of bow and curtsy, and they speak amongst everybody for a little while before the grand doors at the back of the hall are open, and the what would be the throne room, the presentation hall, is revealed, and everyone sort of is asked to proceed through. A gong is struck 3 times, just leaving that resounding sound of solemnity. Waiting in the throne room is King Alexander Marcus sitting upon his throne, and to his left is Jonathan. There's an assortment of other sort of serving staff in the area as all the lords and ladies sort of enter in and take their places, creating an aisle for the young ladies to walk down. They present themselves before the king, hand over some bouquets of flowers, and as he takes them, he sort of rearranges them and places them in a planter next to the throne, symbolizing their joining of the court. He then lifts the veil from each of them and gives them a kiss on the cheek, turns them out and presents them to the court, singing his own praises of these women. That he had seen them grown from young ladies, from young girls into full-grown ladies. That today, on their 16th birthdays, that this celebration can mark a great transition for the Kingdom of Kaldor, as the older families are starting to disappear. The newer blood can take the reins. And while Jonathan is heir, he would need to take a wife. And he could think of no better candidates than any of those gathered here. People he trusts implicitly. And you can tell that statement is geared more towards the lords and ladies of the kingdom than it is the visiting dignitaries, but it is inclusive language nonetheless. After about half an hour of some more ceremony, a dance where the king takes up both of these maidens and dances a long 10-minute waltz with each of them. The servants all come in and take everyone's drinks, and the mini orchestra strikes up this great waltzing music as everyone begins to sort of pair off. People who don't want to dance sort of move off to the side of the room to give the dancers room. Approaching Tarala is Lord Carson, or James Carson. But just as he starts making his movement towards, Jade Phoenix Soul, sorry, not Tarala. Just as he starts making his movement towards a Jonan steps right in front of him, and James almost sort of bounces off his back, taking a short stumble backwards, as he walks up to you and extends his hand and asks if he could have your first dance.
She gives a smile and a curtsy and stands and does so.
He takes you up in his large hands, holds you close. It's oddly intimate, disturbingly so, and just takes you about the room. Unless anyone wants to intervene or upstage, this dance is going to be the central focal point for this stage of the evening, as Tarala's own grace and beautiful dress, and this very stately visiting king, sort of resplendent in all of his honors, twirl about as he sort of acts as sort of like the hub of the dance, moving Tarala about him effortlessly. In this beautiful, almost candle wrapped with flame dance that just sort of skitters out around the entire ballroom. Everyone sort of moving aside to make room. Unless anyone would like to interrupt, of course.
I figured nobody was going to. That said, I mean, she's going to sell. She is going to dance, and in fact, we are going to put the excellency into that, because she's got that as well. Again, I mean, he's putting in the show, she's going to put in the show. Four motes to provide 2 successes on that. I'm assuming that for this one, it would be a dexterity performance roll, since it's a dance as opposed to charisma.
Are you instilling or inspiring?
I am going to inspire sort of, this is a joyous time. Everybody should be focused on that. So that is what she is going to attempt to do. Just sort of inspire a lively nature of the party. I mean, just because she has problems with this guy doesn't mean everybody else should have problems with this party.
Okay.
So yeah, she is going to let him take the lead, but there will be whenever he does, since you said it's a waltz, right?
Yes, a waltz.
Waltz, but she is going to partake in the fact that every so often, during the waltz, every so often while that happens, for instance, if there is ever a twirl, one of the things she's going to do is, that fire dust thing that was given, little sprinkle of that to just liven the performance up a little bit, just a speck or two, just a.
Ooh. I'll give that a 2 point stunt.
So, yeah.
I will give that a 2 point stunt.
All right, then, okay, I'm going to get back that willpower I spent earlier. So that's 1 success from that, 2 successes from the charm, and that gives me 10 dice.
Cool.
Also, I suffer no penalties for doing this for targeting multiple people, which this audience would be.
Okay. And your appearance is 3, as I recall?
Yep.
And take 1 bonus die for the average resolve of the room.
All right, so that's 11 dice and 3 automatic successes.
That's 11 successes, if by my count.
Yeah. Yep.
This is one hell of a dance. This would be the highlight of any ball. The only problem with it, of course, is that you've managed to upstage the young ladies coming out.
Which I believe I will attempt to smooth over by bringing them involved as well. As one moment as a pass comes through, she brings them in to kind of turn it into not a 2-way dance, but a 4-way dance. Basically another performance as she notices the eyes all on her and not on the people they're supposed to be.
Okay. I'll get you to make 1 more performance roll to see if you can shift the attention. To be successful, you're going to need to beat your previous roll.
Ah. It's going to be difficult, but let's see.
Is there anything any of the other characters can do to try and help?
Shasta, you got anything?
We'll stand at the sort of the. I assume at this point that it's sort of gone into a big kind of dance-off type thing where everyone's standing around the room perimeter and watching them do their thing.
Basically, there's just a big circle of people crowding around the edges of this room. Marcus sitting on his throne, Jonathan standing next to him, while the only people currently dancing is Jonan, Jade Phoenix Soul, and now the two girls joining in.
Arthur Shasta will have Johann expel the flammable gas that he generates, but not ignite it, and like help direct it towards where he thinks that the fire dust might go down, so it will, you know, have a larger effect than before. So, you know, if the first round of fire dust was impressive, you know, now it will be more, you know, robust. It will have sort of a larger volume, and because it's now a mix of both fire dust and a combustible gas, it will also change like the color of the flames. So sometimes they'll go off like normal, sometimes they'll go off, you know, more with like, let's say like a bluish green tint, and gives it sort of more of a variety and pizzazz to the finale of the dance.
And Shiroi is going to be weaving her way through the crowd as the fire dust is being laid down and Arthur Shasta is accentuating it. She herself whispering into the crowd, "What marvelous use of fire dust. Look at the way the light plays on the young ladies' faces. Oh, it's outstanding, bringing out their angles and the sharpness of their features. Oh, look at that keen," and she starts mentioning their dresses, their hair pieces, the things that make them beautiful, wondrous women. Oh, it's accentuating her eyes. Oh, what a clever performance indeed. Really, without even drawing them in, they really are the focus of this evening, aren't they?
And to help with this, as this is happening, at some point, she is going to actually whisper to Jonas, "We are going to move back away and let them take the center stage. After all, it is their show." And while doing that, as basically what she's going to do is basically during this dance decouple from the two ladies as they take the dance, and again with the poof of fire dust set up in just such a way as to give them both flaming wings.
Ooh.
Okay. Given that everybody has joined in on this, and it's quite the statement to be making, I will give you a 3-point stunt for this.
All right. Excellent.
Congratulations.
Also, although it was done through his familiar, De Novo has effectively ceded the spotlight to you to be able to sort of enhance your action and fulfill your roll bonus, although you've already got your roll bonus. So De Novo gets his roll bonus to Solar Experience.
Okay. All right. So what's the total bonus for the stunt?
It's a 3-point stunt, so you get 2 dice.
Excellent.
You get 2 successes.
All right.
And you gain 2 willpower that can exceed your maximum.
So right now, that would put me at 7 willpower over 5. I will burn one of those for this, just to help out. And again, 4 motes. Still haven't gone into glowing or anything like that, though I am going to have to marshal it soon because I've been burning a lot of them. Those 4 motes add up. So that is nice. And here's a question: will the ladies' appearance aid in this? Like their versus the resolve.
That's sort of already been taken into account.
Oh, okay.
So, like I said, you get 1 bonus die for the resolve of the room.
Okay, cool. I missed. I might not have heard. I don't think. I heard
their
that
appearance
then,
is 3 as well,
okay.
so it's the same.
Oh, perfect. So 11, 11 dice. That gives me a total of, right now, 5 automatic successes.
Need to roll 6.
Yep.
Or, no, you actually need to roll 7.
It's true.
And he does it.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this turned it in the performance. So not only did she set the stage, upstaged herself with the others.
As the finale concludes, and these sort of wings of flame sort of burst up around the ladies as they sort of take their final bow, a little... It's almost as if they weren't dancing, they've just been swept up in this dance and been sort of, you know, twirled and thrust around between the both of you. And they're a little, not really dizzy, but a bit surprised that they've just sort of just been brought in onto this magnificent performance. And there's this sudden, like, outrageous standing ovation. Everyone just starts cheering and clapping. Even King Marcus himself stands and begins clapping.
And obviously, Tarala joins in with the clapping because, again, it is their night. I assume Jonas is doing the same thing. He presumably knows how to read a court.
Yes, he joins in. While everyone's sort of clapping and cheering, he sort of leans down to you a little conspiratorially. And if such impromptu grace is what I could come to expect from you, then I'm sure the show will be more than a thrilling success once everyone is involved.
She whispers and responds, "This is but a taste of what the ebullient Excelsior can give to you, my lord."
Okay. The stage having been set, the women now fully introduced, the whole courtroom just sort of absolutely amazed with this. This is the most stunning coming out party anyone has had in, like, decades. It's ridiculous. You have totally sold these two girls. At the beginning of the performance, you could tell that Jonathan was staring directly at you, almost with, you know, pounding love heart eyes. But now he can see nothing but these twins. Oh, sorry, they're twins, but they're not identical twins. They're born on the same day. Now he has eyes for nothing but them. They take up his whole attention.
Good. That's what should be.
One moment, I think this calls for a music change. Oh, sorry, yes, go on.
When they have pulled back and now the attention is on the other two girls, De Novo is going to try and sweep... one sec, I just had horrible music start playing on mine. He's going to start sweeping Jade Phoenix Soul aside and ask her to experimentally bring her sword down. It just needs to touch the ground.
Because, like, this could be either very bad or just further the craziness of everything going on. And obviously she while getting escorted away, she's like, she'll excuse me, Jonas, one of the travelers of the Everything Excelsior wished to speak to me for a moment. And she steps aside with him so that she can speak, and she is kind of like, "Ow, here."
It should be sufficient.
I'm going to tell you now, if you take your sword out, everyone will see it.
Yeah, I know that, and
You don't need to reveal your sword, he responds. Just touch it to the ground.
All right.
The package on the ground.
She nods and she whispers. She whispers to him, "Drop something."
De Novo drops a handkerchief.
She kneels and lets the tip of the blade through the back of the dress touch the ground as she picks it up to give to him.
Okay.
He thanks her.
De Novo.
Oh, you needn't have done that for an old man. Thank you for stopping me from needing to stoop.
It's my pleasure.
De Novo. What are you hoping to accomplish with this?
There is going to be a fair amount of typing from Avis, so give me a moment. I'm going to speak, and then Avis, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that because of the ley lines that have been set up of going to these 5 points and puncturing them with the swords and the prayers to these elements, that he has set up some sort of foci, and there was a ribbon that was tied to Tuala's sword. She appears to be the switch to whatever ley line energy he is trying to assert. I, Vero, do not have a Cult 5. Or have read all of the Exalted books. So I'm just waiting for more information from Avis. I hope I am at least describing. Here we go. De Novo does not know what will happen aside from an enormous expulsion of wood energy.
I was just going to point out, I don't know if this would matter, but because I've been using performance excellencies, those are wood aspected charms and would draw her into wood aura as she was doing this. Because her anima has not flared, she is basically replete with wood essence at this time.
Ava says that would help, and apparently earthquakes are normal. And weird things. Avis, that's not helpful. And weird things.
Alright, I am now going to call for an intelligence plus occult roll from De Novo. I'll give you a 2-point stunt because you've set up for this and you're now trying to bring it into fruition. I'm not going to tell you the difficulty.
I apologize for not being able to play it up well enough to try and get you that 3 dice stunt. I don't know enough about ley lines or how essence works in creation, so it felt like I'm just saying, and you press the button.
Magic
and it
happens.
does the thing. Magic happens.
A 2-point is 2 dice and 1 success. So, stuff's going down. We're celebrating. Everyone's happy. Everyone's just going, yeah! Wow, those girls are freaking awesome!
All according to plan, of course.
So that's
Okay.
9 successes, all told.
Damn. And a willpower.
Oh, so 10 in total. Okay. As the tip of the blade touches the ground, anyone nearby who is even remotely aware of their own personal essence feels a buzzing through their body, as if there's a sudden influx of essence flooding into the room, flooding in so hard that it's starting to become palpable. Even those not in tune with essence start to slow down their cheers and clap and applause. The ground starts to rumble. Jonan looks up and around and about. He seems to be getting ready to do something as his body starts to glow white around him. Lord Wyatt starts to scream and groan out, sort of stumbling from the crowd into the middle of the room. The shaking seems to start to focus on him as he starts to claw at his body, screaming louder and louder as the latent blood in him starts to boil. His hair starts to actively sort of reach up like a burgeoning canopy. His legs splitting apart into roots, wood, puncturing into the ground. As he starts to just shift and change into this screaming, terrible, twisted tree. Everyone gasps and takes a step back as the tree grows higher and higher, larger, its roots deepening, cracking through the ground. Jonan stomps his foot and the stonework tries to reassert itself, pushing it down, slowing its advance. But that just makes the trunk grow wider, the branches thicker, the foliage more abundant. All the while, this tree it captures his still screaming face. Does anyone want to do anything?
I'm just going to wait and see if I get some word from De Novo.
have no idea anything to do. Like, this is kind of freaking her out as well. Like, her normal reserve is just like, what just happened? What did De Novo just do? Or by extension, what did I just do?
Arthur Shasta, you're the local ley line expert. Oh, by the way, Johan is like, he is ecstatic with the amount of, like, he is yapping his head off.
He's a happy pupper. How big of a tree is it?
If it keeps growing, it's going to engulf this room.
I have instructions from De Novo. I'm going to ask right now. Do you want me to interrupt over the top of Arthur Shasta or not?
That's up to Arthur Shasta.
Well, actually...
Actually, what's he gonna do? Because Arthur Shasta's gonna be torn between telling Johan to burn it out at the root and take copious research notes. So he's kind of conflicted on this one.
De Novo is taking a step forward and drawing Pelora.
All right. On that note, burn her down. Sorry, continue.
De Novo steps forward. Still the shaky old man, but the sword drawn lift high. We must act quickly before it destroys the whole room and kills us all. Quick, at the root! And slams the sword into the tree. Pelora is a soul steel blade, so his intention is to take out the soul. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else. But the intention is to take out the soul, hopefully stopping whatever the growth, and save the room in doing so. It is a soul-eating blade. God damn it, guys!
And we were doing so well.
Let's take an interesting... Solars, yo! So as...
Like, I mean...
As De Novo strides forward, drawing Pelora, there's that ring of a blade sort of echoing out through the room. Everyone's too sort of shocked and afeared as to what's happening to really do anything or intercede. The blade that he draws looks like ancient, like not like rusted, but like cracked and falling apart. It doesn't look like it would make a very effective weapon at all. As he walks forward, the tree man begins to scream even more as the center of the tree, where his chest would be, starts to stretch outward, and a large knot in the wood forming, creating a hollow as De Novo plunges his blade forward. Inside the hollow is this bright green gem starting to form. De Novo, are you going to proceed with your action?
I'm just awaiting word. Okay, this looks like it's going to be a lengthy response. He said, all right, guys, we have two choices, which means more will follow, which will be a long period of silence. So,
why don't we get some of the players' thoughts?
Like I said, Tarala has, Tarala has, no idea. Like, as far as she's concerned, her part of this was ribbon on sword, which is just tastefully added as part of the dress. Tappy tappy. She had no idea she was about to tree murder a person.
Okay, I've just gotten word from Avis. I'm gonna, just a yes or no, are you sure?
Are we sure what?
She's asking Avis if he's sure
like,
on the course of action he's taking.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking if that was the question he was asking us, and I'm like, about what?
De Novo sees her stone forming, and shouts to Arthur Shuster. By the powers given to me under the oaths of the dragons, I command the exigence within you, save the body, and I will save its soul. Act now! And he stabs forward, maintaining the illusion that he is in complete control of the exigence that is Arthur Shuster, and commands him to save the body. Like, if the body can be saved, it is his job, it is De Novo's job to be saving the soul. It is Arthur Shuster's duty, as has been given to him by his minder, to save the body. Stab.
Arthur Shuster, how are you going to respond to this command?
I am not sure how I save the body. My character has medicine. Can I just be like, well, if you amputate the arm about a quarter inch below the shoulder and the thigh, like at a 45-degree angle above the leg, you will get as much torso and head out of this person as remains?
I'm going to need you to introduce. If you want to do that, you'll have to introduce a fact.
All right. The fact will be, using my lore specialty of metaphysics, that when certain external physiological changes happen to the nature of a being, it's not just like flipping a switch. You have to sort of like transition through the entire essence pattern and change it bit by bit. So it's a gradual growth. So it's not like a instant blessing. It's more like a zombie bite. So if you get to triage fast enough, you can remove limbs and part to stop the like cascade of like essence alteration through the rest of the form. Now, usually this is such a grievous wound and amount of amputation that you would die anyway. I have medicine charms, so if De Novo can mutilate this person perfectly, I can save what remains of them.
And give them some sweet J prosthetics.
Okay. All right. I'll set that at a difficulty 5.
Whilst Arthur Shuster is rolling, does De Novo need to roll for anything? Also, he has hilarious said to me, "Craft XP." Like, wait, is this woodworking? Is it? Oh God! What was this man's name?
Lord Andre Wyatt.
Oh, wasn't he the guy with the 2-year-old?
No.
No, this is the Secretary of State.
Okay.
No.
You know,
No, this is the guy who was all like, "I'm sure the king has it in hand, and you guys are on the roll, so like surely he has like he's sure that everything's going to turn out fine, right?"
It's not fine.
Well, De Novo has craftsman needs no tools, so he's going to be using that, I believe.
To do what?
I'm going to spend a point of willpower on this and 4 modes.
Sorry, I didn't realize you would joke. Unless you're serious. He says that he can whittle his body to perfection. So I believe that he's going to... yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's a success on the introduced fact.
Of destruction.
Yeah, that'll get me 9 successes.
Okay, DeNovo. This is going to work like a feat of strength, except you're going to be rolling dexterity plus craft, woodworking. Now, as I understand, you don't have craft woodworking, so this will be at a +2 difficulty. I'm not going to tell you what the difficulty is.
Is there any stunt die?
I'll give you a 1 point for describing what you're doing, but you're going to have to be more flamboyant. Or, you know what I mean.
Okay. He will also be activating Triumph Forging Eye. I don't actually know what this does. Yeah, he got this. He got this. So while Avis is typing, I am an instrument for destruction. I'm helping this somehow. No, that poor man. Is anyone else?
Kerala, though, so part of me is like, well, screw him and his man's heart. But, you know.
If it's not destroyed, does that mean that Johan can eat it? Is that why he's yapping? Is it making a hearthstone inside him?
Well, they just like places of high essence that come from like dragon mines, like mantis and domains. So yeah, this is his, like, I imagine if you had like some sort of exotic pet and you took it back into its like natural habitat that it was actually designed to live in. Like, this is what he loves. So this is like a giant beam of sunlight to a cat.
Wow. Meanwhile, Sagacious Hand is not there. Golden Heron, also known as Sarah, is not there. And Kayla's Kodan is not there. Okay, now this is going to come in parts. De novo. Using Pelora as a fine scalpel, he cleaves through the upper and lower body with a perfect cut, while invoking the might of passing.
Yeah, 1 point.
There's more typing happening.
Sorry.
Like, type as quickly as you can, Avis. Don't wait for me to finish saying something, just keep going.
We are running out of time.
Like, I could do in-character words to those not here, but it would probably just be a long string of expletives with the word tree interspersed.
Now, while Avis is doing this, I'm going to just speak for a bit to fill up the air, which is that I've actually run this mod through with El Kabash before. This is vastly different from what happened in ours, because everyone decided to go totemic in session 1.
Oh, you mean last night you did turn into a tree?
So this is different, but just as horrifying. Wow.
Did the horrifying at least happen to the same guy?
No. So, just, firsts for everything, right? Also, that was an absolutely beautiful performance, Kel. Like, that, can't believe you managed to outperform yourself. That was amazing.
I'll be honest, I'm like, crap. Just like, all right, we gotta pull out all the stops, and I'm like, guys, a little help. Let's.
Yeah, I love how you're like, nothing can top that, and then you're like, choke on this knee from 10 seconds ago.
And I'm not even a solar.
Yeah, the unconquered sun's looking down at you right now, going, "Damn."
that right there, that was it.
Totally would have eclipsed that one.
No. What's gonna happen is now I'm that guy from that really horrible story that was released early into third edition's life.
What?
You know, the double exalt.
Oh gosh.
I've never heard of this.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Can the power of the sun burn out the might of Sheesh?
Is this part of the sun? The stunt?
No, that's me asking.
Oh, right. No.
Okay. Avis is still typing, so I'm going to just continue with what we have. So, using Pelora as a fine scalpel, he cleaves through the upper and lower body with a perfect cut while invoking the might of Parsia. Using the blessing of Mela to move faster and faster, he will cleave away at the unneeded wood, envisioning the body which will be born anew from the fallen mass. Claiming the cleverness of Denard, he will move through the falling pieces of wood while pulling the string from his robe with his teeth and needling it through the puppet limbs. Hashish calls for urgency, so with a perfect pull of the strings and essence, he will infuse the string with the essence to make them akin to nerves. There is still more coming.
Alright.
Forgive me, I thought... Yeah. I believe we've got one more dragon to get through, which, from memory, we've got Parsia, Mela, Denard, Hashish. Sextus Giles is the last to go, which seems he has an awful lot of an abundance of wood aspect.
I'm just picturing right now a little thing at the side of Elk, and it's just this little bar that says stun rating, and it's just slowly filling up.
That's a good idea. I'll figure out how to do that later.
I like the idea that you're using strings to make nerves, and firing them, because Hashish, firing them up.
I've always pronounced it Hessiash, but I like your way better.
Cool, thank you. Finally, he will catch the reborn form in his arms as it finally lands on the ground. A living man of natural and artificial existence, perfectly wed to a living heart of essence. That sounds almost romantic. Have you not been screaming in agony before to catch someone as they fall and spin around? That's
Okay,
beautiful.
so...
He calls on Sextus Giles to grant a miracle out of tragedy. And that is the end of the stunt.
I will give you a 2-point stunt, which is 2 dice and 1 success and 1 willpower.
Nice. He is spending the willpower. And emptying his personal pool.
Dun, dun, dun. So dramatic. I'd just like to throw out a thank you to the royalty-free production music team. There's you can get bundles of royalty-free music that artists have created and shared. You pay a small price, and then you can use their music in anything you like, usually, as long as you attribute to them. So my attribution is sort of down in the bottom corner over there. And it's a lot of really good stuff that we have access to that we wouldn't be able to have access to if the artists themselves weren't so generous. So I just like to.
All right, so all of this has given.
Try that again, but with the correct type of die.
All of this has given De Novo access to a fair amount of his craft suite.
Is there more rolling to do? Do you have to re-roll anything, De Novo?
Double nines.
So how many successes in total is that?
Double nines and re-roll 10.
Okay.
All you guys and your fancy dice tricks.
So that's 17 successes.
Woo!
I believe he also spent the willpower on that as well, so...
Yeah, 18.
18. Okay. So I'm going to tell you that you failed this roll.
Oh!
But, and I would really like to be able to have you on video right now to be able to do this, I'm going to ask you a very important question. How much do you want to succeed?
A lot.
Would
Says
you break a finger?
Yes.
Would you break an arm?
Yes.
Would you break both arms?
He says he can't.
No, I'm asking you, Avis. If you personally, if you really wanted this badly, would you be willing to give up the function of both of your arms?
Also, just pointing out that it was 19 total successes because of the stun bonus as well.
Okay, cool. Doesn't change anything.
I don't think that changed it.
He's thinking. Considering the option of whether or not his GM has a kill squad nearby. De Novo looks deep within his heart. The intimacies which bind him both in the metaphysical sense of grounding him to his duty of self and duty to others, his obligations towards Shiro, his obligations towards his family, his regrets, his loves, his losses, and everything that means anything to him in this world. His intimacies say yes. It is worth breaking both arms.
One last question. When De Novo and his wife were at the height of their happiness, and she was pregnant with their first child, would he be willing to reach into her womb and rip it out?
There is a list of expletives. Give Avis a moment.
This is why I'd really like the video.
I feel that we would be hearing nothing but furious clicking. The answer... Now, I wanted a yes or no to confirm here, like, just to be sure. Sorry, I'm just confirming. Okay. As the memory of his child wells up, no. This man's life is not worth the life of his child. His, if you don't mind me elaborating here, his eldest daughter may be dead, but she lives on in his heart always. This person is not worth that. It turns out that that is where his limit lies.
To be clear, I am giving you the option to choose to succeed at this. Not necessarily at the cost of your child's life, but I'm likening the consequence to losing your child's life.
He's thinking. Think hard. He's now writing in capitals. He is indeed thinking harder. Couple more expletives. Expletives, I should say. Yes or no, Avis? It's just silence. I'm trying. It's a heavy moment.
This is just a bonus session.
He is willing to really suffer for this. But he cannot, in capitals, offer his family.
So is that a no?
That's a no.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. There's more typing. Just confirming.
Oh.
You need, yes or no answer.
Yes or no? Yes, you were going to save him and succeed, or no, you were not going to save him and fail.
While I wait, no. Excuse me, Avis. No. This is giving you examples so you can feel the emotional weight that this has. It's a yes or no question. You have no idea what the consequences will be. When Elkavash asks you, like, an example that he has had for myself in this same situation is that would you stomp a puppy? I guess. Would you stomp 3 puppies? Like, how much does this mean to you? Something that, like, obviously the breaking of a finger is quite painful. The losing of an arm, even more painful. The loss of a child, painful. At what level does the level that you are willing to sacrifice stop? Is there a level? That is what he's trying to ascertain. So,
thank you, Vera.
now that you are sure that that Elkavash is not talking about time traveling abortion.
Yes, I was not suggesting that at all.
It is a yes or no question of yeah. It is a yes.
Okay.
That is the level.
We have locked in yes. You cannot change that answer anymore. I'm not going to ask any further questions.
De Novo would die for a stranger.
Okay. First, I'm going to tell you what would have happened had you failed. If you had failed, you would have disrupted the formation of a burgeoning manse. The essence, having nowhere to go, would have exploded, probably killing most of the people in the room. Because you have precisely excised this person, you have saved him, essentially, as long as Arthashasta gets to tend to him, and you have saved the rest of the people in the room. As the blade of Pelora makes its final cut, De Novo taking the mannequin, almost, in his arm, and casting it to the ground so it sort of slides along the floor towards Arthashasta, in case he needs to act quickly. The heart of the tree and the heart of this burgeoning manse immediately darkens. Its bark grows ashen and frail, before blackening and turning to dust, its foliage dropping to the floor, quickly drying and withering away. Another strong ki coming from Jonan as he makes a motion with his hands to sort of set the floor right back into place, as if it had not been damaged, save for the amount of ash and refuse left by the destroyed tree. As De Novo looks up from the body on the ground, you can hear the bells of his blade jingle once, twice, 3 times, before they are doing nothing but ringing out a constant melody. As the sky outside seems to crack, and the golden glow of the sun deepens as the shards of illusion fall and it's cast in a crimson pall. You have just plunged Kaldor into a Shadowlands. End session.
We're great at our jobs.
We're helping.
I'm just going to let that sit with the group for a moment.
That was a thing.
Damn it, guys. Oh my god.
Thank you very much, viewers, for joining us on this rather dramatic bonus side session. If you're interested in seeing the conclusion, please join in to my channel on the weekend. There's a timer down in the doobly-doo below the Twitch stream, which lets you know when it's going to start running. Sometimes we start a little earlier, sometimes we start a little later, depends on our tech, on how many tech problems we have, but you can use that as a guide. It should be showing you in your local time. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you then. Bye.
See you next time.
Bye, everybody.